Hello, and welcome to FM Unscripted, a podcast produced by the International Facility Management Association's FMJ magazine. I am Andrea Sanchez, Editor-in-Chief for FMJ, and your host for the next couple of minutes. Today, we explore the topic of noise in the workplace. I have the pleasure of interviewing David Shulkovitz, Marketing Director at Cambridge Sound Management. David has 15 years of B2B and consumer high technology, marketing, sales, and product management experience in the US, Europe, and Asia. He is very passionate about bringing new technologies to market by combining consumer insights, industry trends, and product innovation. Welcome.
Based on your blog post and your articles and the article that's coming into our facility management journal, how does office noise affect productivity? And it could be if it's either too loud or too quiet.
Sure, absolutely. So office noise, and especially human speech noise, it's certainly very distracting, and it's been proven to negatively affect productivity in the workplace. I think we can all agree subjectively that that noises in our office, if someone's talking to you or a phone call that's taking place next door, the sound of the microwave, those can be distracting. But there's lots of hard facts as well that prove really the impact to productivity in the office. Mm-hmm. According to research from UC Irvine, employees are interrupted once every 11 minutes.
Wow.
It takes them up to 23 minutes to get back into the flow of what they were doing before they were interrupted. And in addition, in a report from the International Congress of Noise and Public Health Problems, researchers actually found that employees wasted 21.5 minutes a day due to conversation distractions, and that made the lack of speech privacy in their office the #1 cause of reduced productivity. And in fact, there's another survey that was just out very recently by Steelcase, the major furniture manufacturer, in a firm called IPSOS, and their numbers were even higher. They reported that employees lost as much as 86 minutes per day due to noise distractions. So, I mean, it's the facts kind of speak for themselves. It's a big problem in today's office, and a lot of that is driven, of course, due to the fact that offices are more open, right? There's less barriers between workers.
Exactly. Wow, and that certainly adds up, and it's certainly eye-opening.
It is, and the worst culprits are typically can be the quiet offices, actually, because when the background sound is very quiet, when people speak and when sounds go off in the background, that's really much more distracting because the decibel level is that much higher based on a very low background sound. So sometimes quiet offices can actually have the bigger drop in productivity due to distractions.
Yeah, that's really interesting because obviously one automatically thinks of distraction equals noisy offices, but you're right, quiet offices are a culprit as well. I found this fascinating. I read this in one of the articles, but the concept of intelligibility, and I never really thought about it, but it makes sense. Can you go into that?
Sure. Speech intelligibility is really a description that's used in the measurement of speech levels, and it addresses the ability of a casual listener to understand a nearby conversation. And when he or she understands that conversation, it's intelligible to them. It has a bigger impact on them getting distracted because you can actually hear the words of the conversation that are going on. Intelligibility is a component of speech privacy, and there's a speech privacy index, or an SPI, which is actually a scientific measurement, a standard that's used by consultants in addressing kind of acoustics in an office space. So there's science behind it as well. But intelligibility is is a factor in that, which is how easy or hard is it to hear someone's conversation. An example, I guess two examples. One would be if you're ever in an airport waiting for a flight and you're sitting in the terminal and you're sitting near a TV and they've got CNN playing. And for me, like if you're sitting there trying to write an email or working, waiting for your flight, and CNN News is on, and you hear a conversation in an interview, and you hear the words of that news story or the weather or whatever, you start to focus on it, and you start to drift away from the email that you're writing and you focus on the TV.
Right.
So that's a level of, there's an intelligible speech sound that's going on that's distracting me because I can hear each of the words, and then that story may interest me, so I pay attention to it. Take the instance when you're sitting in Starbucks or a coffee shop and you're working and there's like a low-level hum of background noise and the coffee maker, people talking. For me and probably for many others, that's a more comfortable environment to work in because there's a little bit of ambient background sound, but it all blends in together. So it doesn't really distract you. Same with if you're at a bar at night and you're talking to friends, it actually feels comfortable because there's so much conversation around you. You're not listening to other people, you're just talking to yourselves, but no one can overhear your conversation, so you actually feel somewhat in a comfortable kind of bubble. So that's a little bit of around that. A third example would be for intelligibility is if you're at home and you're doing the dishes and you've got the water running and someone's talking to you from, let's say, outside the kitchen door. Normally you could hear them fine, and they can hear you fine, but you can't hear them because the water's running right in front of you. So that's actually a type of sound masking.
Interesting. So how do you determine if you have an acoustical issue in your workplace?
There's different ways. Some common signs would be, well, a very obvious one is, complaints from workers or managers in an office that it's loud and that they can't focus. That's a very, kind of an obvious one. But other signs are, if a lot of people are wearing headphones, that could be a sign that it's easy to get distracted in the space. So they're listening to music and they're focused and they're using music as their mechanism to stay focused and not distracted. That has pros and cons to it in itself, and there's different studies on working to music and the productivity levels that people have. Certain types of music, like classical or non-lyrical music, can actually be good for that. But as soon as you hear lyrics in music, sometimes there's some studies that I won't go into today that then say you kind of focus, your mind drifts a little bit, and you focus on the lyrics. So it's kind of a funny, its own kind of research area. But yeah, headphones, of course people leaving to place phone calls, going out in the hallway, going out in the parking lot. I think we all see that and experience that. If you have a phone call with your wife or husband or, doctor or whatever, and it's private enough, you would get up and leave if you feel like you have limited speech privacy around you. People, taking meetings off-site could be a sign, because sometimes people are talking about a project and they want to, could be confidential, it could be a product roadmap, and they actually have to be careful about what they're talking about, or a communications plan, or especially in finance or investment banking, company deals that are going on, anything that's that needs to be kept confidential, and they're having to leave the office premises to be able to have those conversations. That's a typical sign that maybe there are acoustical issues.
What are some other specific solutions toward acoustical issues that one can use in, say, an open workspace?
Yeah, so architects like to refer to three elements. They call that the ABCs of acoustics. The A is absorb. So that means adding acoustical wall panels, carpet, ceiling tiles, anything to help absorb excess sound in a space. And that's very popular, of course, in music venues and areas that have very highly tuned acoustics. But also in offices. I mean, carpet helps. Ceiling tile helps because of absorbing sound.
That's true.
So that's a key one. The second piece is block, B for block. And that's putting up solid barriers, partitions, and walls to help block sound. So if you put up a really good thick wall, between two private offices, you have a very good chance that the acoustics are going to be better, and there's not going to be sound privacy issues taking place. And the third is cover, which is adding sound, like sound masking, into an environment to help cover up excess sound. So that's when you increase the background level of a space with sound to help cover up and make speech less intelligible in an environment. So those are generally the ABCs of acoustics, which is the kind of a well-known approach for facility managers to use when they're evaluating their workspace and looking for solutions.
Thank you so much, David. This has been very enlightening. And is there anything else that you'd like to address or folks to know about the importance of sound and managing the sound or noise in the office?
Yeah, just to say, don't overlook it. It's an easy thing to wait until post-construction or, once people are staffed and in the building, and then typically that's when you uncover the sound issue. So think proactively about how the place is going to feel to the workers acoustically. Is it going to be comfortable? Are people going to be able to take phone calls and not distract others? So just be proactive in the planning around it. Consider the ABCs of acoustics. Consider sound masking as an affordable solution, or at least try it out or pilot it in certain areas, and you can always then expand it later. It's something that's pretty easily retrofitted in afterwards. So just to consider sound as a key piece of the environment when it comes to your facility.
Special thanks to David and his team of experts at Cambridge Sound Management. Among IFMA's prestigious silver-level corporate sustaining partners, Cambridge Sound Management provides the #1 sound masking solution, proven to be a cost-effective approach to protect speech privacy and reduce workplace distractions that is trusted by over 40% of Fortune 100 companies. To learn more about the topic discussed today, go to ifma.org and refer to the May-June 2015 issue of FMJ Magazine, as well as check out Cambridge Sound Management's blog at www.cambridgesound.com. Thank you for tuning in.